It all started after my daughter Hannah participated in a piano recital when she was 5.
I hate you, Mom. You're so mean.
Hannah, what's gotten into you all of a sudden? I was completely baffled by how my once happy daughter had suddenly changed. Apparently, she was upset because she didn't like her hand-me-down dress and the way I had styled her hair. I couldn't deny that, compared to the other participants, she didn't look exactly fancy or elegant. But it was the best I could manage with our tight budget. I apologized to her over and over again, but she refused to forgive me. That's when my husband, Bob, took her side and started blaming me too.
Well, it's all because your mom was stingy.
For the next 9 years, I endured daily insults from both my husband and daughter. One time, they threw away the meal I had just cooked, saying, "I wanted steak tonight." At other times, I was criticized with comments like, "Your cleaning and laundry are sloppier than usual," and I wasn't allowed to sleep until I finished. My daughter would lash out, saying, "I was humiliated because you didn't bring me what I forgot," and she constantly demanded clothes and belongings that made her stand out more than everyone else, leaving our household finances in shambles. Still, I kept telling myself that I was doing it for the happiness of our family and endured it all. But everything broke down after that day. I can no longer build a warm and loving home. That's when I finally told them that I wanted a divorce. To be honest, I had hoped that they would at least say something like, "Don't leave." Maybe they'd even regret treating me so harshly. But instead, their responses were full of cruelty.
Good riddance. Get out, you worthless piece of trash.
Oh, and where's our thank you gift for all we've done for you?
I was so shocked, I couldn't even find the words to respond.
I won't forget what you've done.
What?
What?
Suddenly, a voice from behind broke the tension in the room, and we all froze. It was her, the person I love most. My name is Olivia Anderson. My ordinary and monotonous life changed dramatically when I turned 42. But before I get into that, I want to talk a little about my past. I've always had a timid personality, even as a child. I was aware of this myself. When I was asked to take over, erase the whiteboard, or cover for the class leader in elementary school, I couldn't bring myself to say no. The reason was simple. I always thought, if I say no, will they dislike me? As I grew older, I came to understand that in a relationship built on trust, something like that wouldn't lead to tension or negativity. But even so, my natural personality didn't change, and I remained timid. The fact that I was able to get through my school years without any major trouble was thanks to my family. Especially my sister Amanda, who is 2 years older than me, always looked out for me. My sister is the opposite of my character, and she's the type of person who can express her opinion clearly. I admired her deeply and loved her very much. But Amanda often said she didn't like herself, claiming that her personality was too harsh and cold. This is what I used to tell Amanda. If we could split our personalities halfway, that'd be perfect, right? But honestly, I'm really happy to have you as my sister. Your strong sense of justice will definitely help someone someday. Amanda would blush a little and quietly say, "Thanks." As we grew older, we went down separate paths and we gradually saw each other less and less. But we kept in touch and would sometimes get together for meals. Even as adults, Amanda was always looking out for me, asking, "Anything new going on?" I'd always smile and say, "Nothing much, everything's the same." We were close, but as I got into college, we slowly drifted apart. The reason was my husband, Bob. I met Bob in a college seminar. After sitting next to each other a few times, he started talking to me.
Hey, we sat next to each other last time too, didn't we? Mind telling me your name?
Oh, I'm Olivia.
I'm Bob. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. My first impression of Bob was that he was a friendly, easygoing guy. He wasn't shy about talking to someone like me who was introverted and timid.
Hey Olivia, let's grab lunch at the cafeteria. I need help with that assignment from earlier.
Sure, if I can help. Every time we met, Bob would invite me to the cafeteria or out for lunch. Then in the fall of our sophomore year,
I've liked you since the first time we met, Olivia. Will you go out with me?
it was a sudden confession. But by then, I had already developed feelings for him, so I quickly said yes. Once we became a couple, Bob took the lead in planning our dates and trips.
So, we're meeting at the train station at 5 p.m. for Christmas, okay?
What? But I have work that day.
Come on, it's our first Christmas together. Just ask someone to cover your shift. I've been looking forward to this.
Really? Okay, I'll try to talk to my manager, but I'm not sure if I can get off.
Great, I'm counting on you.
He could be a bit pushy at times, but I appreciated how he took charge, especially when I hesitated. However, the more time I spent with Bob, the less time I had with my parents and Amanda. Especially Amanda, who had moved out when she started college. We still kept in touch, but we barely saw each other anymore. By the summer of my senior year, I had received 2 jobs offers, but I couldn't make up my mind. It was during that time.
You should definitely go with Bright Path Ventures. Stratec Solutions is a big corporation, right? You're too shy for a place like that. Bright Path Ventures is the only option.
Taking Bob's advice, I chose Bright Path Ventures. Though deep down, I was more attracted to Stratec Solutions. However, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone as timid as I was might not be suited for it. Bob might have sensed my feelings and gave me the push I needed. In the spring of my 5th year as a working adult.
Olivia, will you marry me?
What?
I've realized something after working in the real world. I need you, Olivia. I don't want you just coming over on weekends anymore. I want us to be together all the time. Please marry me.
Bob, I'm so happy. I'll do my best to be a good wife. Let's make it work. And so I accepted Bob's proposal and we got married. At the time, I was still living with my family. Bob continued to live in the same apartment he had been in since his college days. After we both graduated, Bob had often brought up the idea of moving in together, but my family, especially Amanda, was strongly opposed. The reason was simple. Commuting to work from Bob's apartment would take twice as long as it would from my parents' house.
If you're going to waste that much time commuting, you'd be better off working extra hours. Or you could find a new place somewhere in the middle for both of you. Those are your only options.
After hearing Amanda's advice, I thought to myself, she's absolutely right. So I had already decided to either turn down Bob's offer or suggest moving to a more convenient location. I also thought that, as long as we had trust, such a thing wouldn't damage our relationship. But in reality, Bob was pretty persistent.
Do you love your sister more than me? Don't you care about my opinion, Olivia?
Bob would often say things like this, sounding jealous. I suggested we move, but Bob quickly rejected the idea, saying he was too busy with new employee training and after-work gatherings with his colleagues. Bob often said, "I love you and I want to be with you forever." That's why he seemed quite upset that I wasn't agreeing to live together. Honestly, there were times when I thought, maybe we should just move in together. But Amanda always reminded me,
If he's going to break up with you over not living together, then he wasn't worth it in the first place. Besides, didn't you decide you didn't want to live together?
thanks to her words, I managed to stay true to my feelings. The best solution we reached was living together only on weekends. Even though Bob had lived alone for a while, he wasn't great at cooking or doing laundry, so I would bring homemade meals and take his laundry back to wash for him. Bob would always show his gratitude, giving me a massage in return or occasionally treating me to a meal. And every time we parted, Bob would always cling to me, saying, I don't want to be apart. I couldn't help but love him for that. So when he proposed, I was truly happy, feeling like I was on top of the world. Considering how long I had been with Bob, I was certain that all that awaited us was a smooth and happy life. I believed that wholeheartedly and never doubted it. But in the 3rd year of our marriage, after our daughter Hannah was born, Bob's attitude changed completely, as if everything he'd said before had been a lie.
Now that we have a kid, it's only natural for you to quit your job. I mean, who's going to take care of Hannah and do the housework if you go back to work?
Well, I thought we'd share the responsibilities.
Oh, so you just want to make things easier for yourself by dumping housework and childcare on me? Unlike you, my boss expects a lot from me. If you have a problem with that, earn as much as I do before you complain.
The company I worked for, Bright Path Ventures, had an excellent maternity leave policy for the time. My salary was about 2/3 of Bob's, but it was a wonderful workplace with my supportive colleagues and bosses. That's why I wanted to return to work and continue as a working mother. But Bob wouldn't hear any of it. To top it all off, while I was in the hospital after giving birth, Bob submitted my resignation to Bright Path Ventures without my consent. I was shocked and confused by his outrageous behavior, and as soon as I was discharged, I confronted him. I hadn't decided to quit yet. Why did you do this without asking me? But Bob spoke as if he was doing it all for my sake and said this.
Why? Because there's no way Olivia could juggle 2 things at once. And besides, I figured timid Olivia wouldn't be able to tell her boss she's quitting, so I went ahead and did it for you.
In a way, Bob might have been right. Even before having Hannah, I struggled to balance work and household duties. Still, shouldn't we have talked about this? We're supposed to respect each other's opinions.
Come on, getting married means we're family, right? Why would you worry about family like that? Besides, we're going to be parents, aren't we? As parents, our first priority should be our daughter's happiness. That's why I made the best decision for you and our daughter. Got it?
While I couldn't completely agree with Bob's reasoning, I couldn't argue with the fact that I'd been overwhelmed before and that he was thinking about our daughter. So, in the end, I chose to become a full-time stay-at-home mom, just as Bob wanted. Of course, right after giving birth, I still had some lingering regrets about my job, but those feelings gradually faded as I became consumed with the daily tasks of housework and childcare. But that feeling faded as I became consumed with the daily demands of housework and childcare. Since both my parents worked, my mom often said, "I'm sorry that I made Amanda and you endure so much when you were little." Not once did we ever blame her for that. But as I spent time with my own child, I started to understand how my mom must have felt, wishing she could have been there more. The time you spend with your young child is fleeting and precious, and I got to experience that firsthand. I still remember the day Hannah rolled over for the first time, the moment she started crawling and standing up, and the first words she ever spoke. Her constant smiles, the way she clung to me, and how she'd fall asleep after a long day of playing. Those moments filled my heart with love. But those happy times didn't last long. When Hannah started kindergarten,
Hey, how much longer are you going to laze around at home? Go find a job now.
the same man who had insisted I be a stay-at-home mom now demanded I go back to work. There were several reasons, but the decisive factor was that we were considering buying a new house. Considering the mortgage after buying a house, it would be difficult for my husband alone to manage the payments. That's why he wanted me to go back to work as well. I searched for a job that met his expectations and managed to get one. However, juggling work with household chores and childcare became overwhelming. So I brought up the idea of sharing responsibilities again as a working couple. But Bob's response was a flat no.
Housework and childcare are your responsibilities. I'll help with school events, but other than that, you need to handle it yourself. You're Hannah's mom, after all.
True, but you're her dad too. Can't you help a little more?
I already told you I'll attend her school events. I'm even taking time off work for her. What more do you want? You should step up and be more of a mom.
I had so many things I want to say, but maybe because of my timid nature, I couldn't say anything back. Here was my husband working hard for the family. A father who takes time off work for his daughter. A man who's thinking about buying a house for the future of the family. It felt like he was saying, expecting more from me is just being selfish, and I found myself at a loss for words. As promised, Bob rarely missed any of Hannah's school events. The other parents and teachers would always praise him, saying, "What a wonderful father," which made him beam with pride. During those moments, he would even treat me kindly, acting like the perfect husband. But as soon as we got home, he became a completely different person.
Why are we having frozen food for dinner? Stop wasting money.
I'm sorry. I was busy preparing for Hannah's event today.
You should have prepared ahead of time. You knew about this in advance. You're really a terrible mother.
This became a repeated cycle. What was even more heartbreaking was that this behavior eventually rubbed off on our daughter. I first noticed it when Hannah, at age 5, participated in her first piano recital. At the venue, my daughter was all smiles, showing a cheerful face and acting affectionate towards me. But as soon as we got home, her expression darkened.
Why wasn't my dress cute? And my hair didn't sparkle at all.
Hannah, what's wrong all of a sudden?
All my friends looked like princesses, but why didn't I? It's not fair. I hate you, Mom.
The dress was a hand-me-down from my friend, and I had done her hair myself, doing my best to make it look nice. But Hannah wasn't happy with it.
That's because Mom was being stingy. Tell you what, Hannah, I'll buy you whatever you want next time, okay? Cheer up, all right?
Really? I love you, Dad.
But it was Bob who had refused to spend money on a new dress in the first place.
I already told you, my salary is going into the retirement savings. We can't use that money freely.
I know that, but it's Hannah's first recital. Can't you pitch in a little bit for it?
Impossible is impossible. You're always relying on me. Figure it out yourself for once.
Even my salary was always stretched thin with loan payments, daily expenses, and my daughter's lesson fees. Still, I knew I had to make it work, so I asked around and managed to get the dress with great effort. I had even consulted Hannah about her hairstyle beforehand, and she had agreed it was fine. However, the moment Hannah saw the outfits of the other participants and thought, "They're cuter than mine," she suddenly became upset. Yet, when others were around, she would put on a smile and pretend that we were a happy family. But as soon as we were alone, she would criticize me. It was just like how Bob behaved. After that recital, my sweet daughter started looking down on me, and it only got worse. Every time Hannah criticized me, Bob would take her side. And soon, Hannah started backing Bob up whenever he scolded me too. I felt like I was being attacked from both sides, and each day my spirit shrank a little more. In hindsight, I probably should have reached out for help at that point. However, with the daily grind of housework and my job, I didn't even have the mental space to think about such things. On top of that, Bob and Hannah constantly told me, "It's unbelievable you don't understand something so simple. You're the one who's out of touch," making me think, maybe it really is all my fault. They're my family, and they're just being honest with me. It's my fault for not trying harder. Thinking like that was how I managed to hold myself together. But then that moment arrived unexpectedly. It's something I'll never forget. It happened on Christmas Day, the year our daughter Hannah started middle school.
Oh, I'm so tired. There's nothing like being home.
We had just returned from visiting his parents for Christmas.
Hey, make me some tea and get the bath ready.
I want fried chicken for dinner.
Okay, I'll get started right away. Even though it had been a day trip, we arrived home later than planned, so I rushed to start the household chores. While I was going over our plans for the next day with Bob, my mom said we need to be there by 11 o'clock tomorrow, so we should leave around 9:30, right?
You know what, Olivia? I've been thinking, we don't really need to visit your parents anymore, do we?
Why?
Well, you're my wife, right? So it makes sense that we only visit my parents. Honestly, I'm exhausted and just want to relax at home tomorrow. What do you think, Hannah?
Yeah, I don't really want to see Mom's grandpa and grandma, but if we don't go, I won't get any presents.
Oh, right. Well, why don't we just have them mail it to you?
Great idea, Dad. Let's do that.
All right, settled then. Olivia, make sure to let them know.
Too tired to visit my parents? Presents through the mail? What on earth were they saying? My mind was racing with disbelief. Visiting my parents for Christmas was the one thing I genuinely looked forward to. So for once, I gathered my courage to speak up. There's no way we can do something so rude. If you're both too tired, I'll go visit my parents alone. You two can rest at home tomorrow. I was angry, but I made an effort to speak gently and calmly. I thought, if I do this, it should avoid any conflict. But when Bob heard this, his face turned red with rage, as if he'd become a different person.
What? If you go to your parents alone, who's going to cook for me and Hannah?
You can just order takeout or grab something from the store. Or if that's a problem, I can prepare something ahead of time for you to heat up tomorrow. For 12 years, ever since Hannah was born, Bob had insisted, no takeout food. We're saving every penny for the mortgage, so I had always cooked without complaint. But this time was different. Visiting my parents' home for Christmas, I wasn't willing to give that up. We're a family that trusts each other. Surely they can allow this one selfish request after 12 years. For some reason, I truly believed that. But what I got in return wasn't compromise or a counter-argument. It was a harsh, sharp slap across my face. Ouch! I was so stunned by Bob's action that my mind went blank.
Don't get cocky. Who do you think makes it possible for you to live like this? Stop complaining and do what you're told.
Silence. The shock was so great that I couldn't even find the words to respond. I simply nodded and quietly went back to my chores.
Wow, that looked like it hurt. Your cheek is all red.
Hannah looked at my red, swollen cheeks and just giggled in surprise. And there they were, Bob and Hannah, sitting on the couch, drinking and endlessly mocking me. As I silently went about my chores, there was only one thing on my mind. It was the divorce option. No matter how much they had hurt me with their words before, I managed to keep going by telling myself they depended on me. When Bob and Hannah said, "You don't make sense," I convinced myself that my timid nature had caused me to drift apart from them. I thought that if enduring it would allow my family to live happily, then that was the best thing to do. But violence is the one thing that is absolutely unacceptable. No matter the reason, it was unacceptable and unforgivable. My parents and sister loved me, but they also taught me to never submit to violence. They always said, "There is no love in violence. Violence is an act that can take a life. No one who truly loves you would ever do such a thing," they had repeated to me many times. They had also told me, "If you ever feel in danger, leave immediately and seek help." If it were just the harsh words, I could have handled it. But to think he would do this. There's no way I can build a warm home with him anymore. I no longer had any doubts. From that day on, my life, which had been shrouded in uncertainty, suddenly became clear. How would I afford a new life? Where would I move? What about work? There were so many issues to tackle, but surprisingly, I didn't feel overwhelmed. As shameful as it is to admit, my heart had been wishing to escape this life for a long time. But I had buried those feelings under the weight of my husband's trust and my duty as a mother. However, all of that was blown away by his act of violence. I was 42 years old at the time, yet I felt like a child again, full of curiosity and energy to take action. That said, it wasn't as if my feelings for Bob, whom I had spent nearly 20 years with, or for Hannah, the daughter I had carried, completely disappeared. Especially since next year, Hannah would be facing her high school. There were so many things to prepare for, tutoring fees and new uniforms. That's why, for the sake of my daughter's future, I wanted to reconcile or compromise if it was possible. But Bob continued to treat me like a convenient maid, refusing to even sit down for a serious discussion. Hannah also simply followed her dad's lead, showing no signs of forming her own opinions. Whenever I tried to talk to her, her response was always, "Dad said." "There's no point in saying anything anymore, is there?" Any lingering attachment or feelings I had were finally gone. And so, I made up my mind to leave the house for good. One winter day, when Hannah was in her second year of middle school, I finally finished preparing to leave the house and called the two of them into the living room. "Today, I want you to sign this," I said, presenting the half-filled-out divorce papers to Bob.
You serious?
"Yes, I'm serious."
Mom, do you really want a divorce?
"Yes, I do." They never imagined I would say such a thing. They kept looking back and forth between the divorce papers and my face, utterly shocked. To be honest, I had a tiny hope that, at the very last moment, they might say, "Don't go." But deep down, I knew they wouldn't offer me those kinds of kind words.
I thought you had something important to say, and it's just about divorce? You should be grateful I married you. You've been living a cushy life in this nice house because of me, you ungrateful fool.
If Mom's leaving, does that mean we're going out for dinner tonight? Yay! I want a hamburger. I hope the new mom is prettier, nicer, and richer than you.
Neither of them seemed to care that I, their wife and mother, was about to leave their lives. Well, that's about what I expected. I laughed at myself for ever hoping otherwise and quietly waited for the divorce papers to be signed. Hannah looked briefly confused by my firm demeanor, but Bob, as if he had been waiting for this moment, quickly signed the divorce papers.
There you go. I divorced you. Be grateful.
As soon as he finished filling out all the sections, he said that and threw the divorce papers at me. As I picked them up, I couldn't shake the strange feeling I had about how nonchalant Bob was acting. To be honest, I had expected him to yell, "What about my meals?" But instead, he didn't seem the least bit worried about life without me. This was clearly unnatural. So I said, "For the future," and I showed him where the toilet paper and detergent were stored and explained the trash disposal rules to him. He'll get angry when he understands I'm really leaving. I knew I might be putting myself in danger. Even so, I couldn't help but want to understand the reason behind Bob's strangely calm behavior. Instead of getting upset, Bob just laughed, completely uninterested.
I don't need it. Housework is a woman's job, and there's no way I'm doing it.
But if I'm gone, you'll have to manage on your own. As I continued to press the issue, Hannah interrupted the conversation.
You mean I'll have to cook and do laundry? No way. Dad, do something.
However, as a result, Bob casually confessed to the existence of his mistress.
Don't worry, Hannah. I've already found someone to replace her.
Really? Oh, thank goodness.
In contrast to Hannah's relieved expression, the color drained from my face. So, that's why you've been staying out late and coming home in the mornings. I see now. The catalyst for leaving the house was the violence that day. But in truth, the bond and love between us as a couple had been gone for a long time. I just hadn't realized it until now. To learn this at the very end. When did it all go wrong or where? My mind was flooded with these thoughts, and the scene before me started to blur with tears.
By the way, I'm definitely getting alimony and child support, so pack up and get out already, you useless woman.
Oh, and where's your thank you for all I've done for you?
Their triumphant smiles only made me feel more miserable. Clutching my favorite bag, the only thing I was taking with me, I held back the tears with all my strength. And then it happened.
Thank you for taking care of my sister. We won't forget what you did.
What?
What?
Everyone turned as a voice came from behind me. Amanda. Standing there was my sister, Amanda.
What the hell? What are you doing in my house? I'll call the police for trespassing.
Who is this woman?
Ignoring their panic and confusion, Amanda walked straight over to me. Then, like a prince, she gently took my hand and whispered in a soft, kind voice,
You've done well. I'll handle things from here.
Her kind words broke the last thread of tension holding me together. Amanda, thank you. Before I knew it, large tears were rolling down my cheeks. Amanda pulled me into a tight hug and gently guided me outside to the car parked nearby. She opened the back seat door, helped me in, and closed the door softly behind me. However, the window was slightly open, so I could hear the conversation outside clearly.
Hey, who the hell are you? Why are you in my house?
Bob shouted angrily, his voice growing louder, but responded in a cold, chilling tone.
I had the keys, so of course I could come in. This is my sister's wish, and I'm simply helping her carry it out.
Wait, are you Olivia's sister? Don't think you can just barge into my house because you're family and get away with it.
Oh, are you that stingy Aunt Amanda who never gives me presents even when we visit for Christmas? I haven't seen you in a while. And seriously, you're wearing a suit on a Sunday? Are you that broke that you have to work all the time? That's hilarious.
Hannah seemed to be misunderstanding, but Bob knew full well that Amanda's suit and the car she drove were expensive. That's why he was causing such a scene and trying to figure out how to get money from her. He started probing about Amanda's job and income, even demanding she hand over her business card for identification. But Amanda didn't respond to any of his questions or requests.
I've had enough. Just leave already.
Bob snapped, trying to push Amanda out of the house.
No, it's you two who are leaving. As of today, this house has been sold. You need to pack your things and move out immediately. That's all.
What are you talking about?
Exactly what I said. And let me tell you, this is a very lenient consequence. For what you've done, you're getting off extremely lightly.
What are you even saying? Are you out of your mind?
In response to my husband, who was lashing out in panic, Amanda remained calm and continued speaking steadily.
To begin with, this house is in Olivia's name. Given your reckless spending, it's no surprise you wouldn't qualify for a loan. On top of that, Olivia paid off the mortgage entirely by herself, all for the happiness of the family, so she has every right to do what she wants with it.
But still, selling the house without telling me is insane.
It's perfectly legal. And for someone who lied about saving for retirement while spending recklessly on an affair, you have no right to criticize Olivia.
How do you know all of this? It was Olivia, wasn't it?
That kind of information is easy to obtain if you have the right connections. Frankly, given your multiple affairs, workplace harassment, emotional abuse, and domestic violence, you should be sued and barred from ever working again. But Olivia chose not to go that route.
Amanda's cold, calm voice, coupled with the fact that everything had been exposed, left Bob speechless.
And consider this my payback to both of you.
Payback?
That's right.
Payback? What does she mean? And what was that thank you earlier about? I pressed my ear closer to the window, desperate to understand Amanda's true intentions. Amanda must have noticed what I was doing. She glanced over at me and gave a small smile. I didn't understand the meaning of that smile right away, and I tilted my head in confusion.
Olivia is incredibly capable, but she's naive when it comes to malice. Because of that, people have been taking advantage of her talents and kindness for years. I've been quietly helping her from the shadows.
Oh, so you're saying I was good enough to marry her, right?
That's not it at all. You have too many flaws as a person. I would have removed you from her life a long time ago. But Olivia loved you. So, I let her make her own decision about the future of your marriage.
As Amanda spoke, a realization hit me. Looking back, Amanda had always been there to save me. Whether it was when classmates tried to dump their homework on me in elementary school, or when I was forced to take on multiple extracurricular activities in high school, Amanda always gave me advice and helped me. But it wasn't just that. Amanda had probably been working hard behind the scenes to help me in ways I never knew. It was only then that I finally realized it.
It took some time, but Olivia has finally learned to take action and rescue herself from a toxic situation. And she has you two to thank for that. That's why, as a token of gratitude, I'm letting you off with just losing the house.
As Amanda's words sank in, I watched as the color drained from both Bob's and Hannah's faces. I was used to it by now, but Amanda's voice when she was angry was chilling and merciless. I had never seen anyone outside our family stand up to her without shrinking back in fear.
Oh, and just to be clear, you'll be paying alimony. I'll give you the details later.
Alimony? I thought losing the house was all we had to deal with.
Anyone who's committed adultery and acts of violence doesn't get off without consequences. Seeking compensation is Olivia's right. Well, I have to go now.
Wait, this is all Olivia's fault. She's the one who's useless and can't follow simple directions.
What do you mean we're losing the house? I'm going to be a high school senior next year. Mom, why are you doing this to us? Dad, do something.
Do something? Olivia, come back. I don't approve of selling the house. Do you hear me? Come back and listen to me, Olivia.
My husband and daughter, now in a state of panic, were shouting frantically. Amanda let out a small sigh as she looked at the two of them, then continued speaking.
You brought this on yourselves. In the end, we all live our own lives and make our own decisions. And with every decision comes responsibility and consequences. You would do well to understand that.
Don't act so high and mighty. Olivia, get out of the car right now. I'm not accepting any of this.
You force your way of thinking onto others too much. Family is a kind of community. If you don't listen to each other and compromise, it'll fall apart sooner or later.
Amanda said that, then got into the driver's seat and looked back at me. With her usual gentle smile, she asked me,
All set. We're leaving now, but is there anything else you want to say?
I shook my head in silence, looking straight ahead. Amanda nodded back with a relieved expression, then started the engine to leave. But just as we were about to go, a loud bang echoed from the side of the car. Bob. It was the sound of Bob banging desperately on the car window, trying to stop me.
Olivia, I was wrong. I'll apologize for everything. I'll stop cheating. I'll help with the housework and the kid. I'll save money, I swear. Please come back. I need you.
He's saying the same thing he said when he proposed. 17 years ago, when Bob said he needed me, I felt like I was on cloud 9. But the truth was, it was my skills that Bob needed. That's why he always refused to share responsibilities like work and housework. It took me 17 years to realize something so simple. How pathetic of me. As I looked at Bob, desperately pleading outside the window, my heart didn't budge an inch.
Dad, what's going to happen to us now? Dad?
Shut up. I don't care about you. Figure it out yourself.
Dad?
Hannah, who had been spoiled by her dad all this time, was frozen in shock at his sudden change. Even then, she couldn't bring herself to say, "Mom, I'm sorry. Please don't leave." Maybe it was part of her original personality, but I realized she had completely adopted Bob's way of life. I took a deep breath, and through the small gap in the window, I spoke clearly. "I can't do this anymore. Goodbye." At that moment, I heard Amanda let out a quiet chuckle. It sounded like she was saying, "You'll be just fine now," and it gave me a sense of strength. Without a word, Amanda closed the window and drove off. The sight of Bob shouting and running after the car and Hannah standing there pale-faced grew smaller and smaller in the rearview mirror. In my heart, I whispered goodbye one last time, though I think it was more of a farewell to my past self. 10 years have passed since that day. Not long after, I got a job with a company overseas and have been living there ever since. Back in my senior year of college, I had the chance to work abroad with Stratec Solutions, the one I didn't choose. I had wanted to take that challenge, but at the time I didn't have the confidence or courage to go for it. Worse still, I let someone else make that important life decision for me. Looking back now, I regret thinking, how could I have been so irresponsible? But if you ask Amanda, she would say, it's all part of the experience. She's always been so kind and understanding, especially toward me, her little sister. As for Bob and Hannah, I have no idea what happened to them after we parted ways. The alimony that was paid regularly ended a year ago, and there's nothing left to connect us anymore. To be honest, I can barely even remember their faces. But maybe that's for the best. Because now I have someone by my side whom I truly want to spend my life with.
Olivia, are you tired? Are you okay?
I'm fine. It's just, I was thinking about how happy I am.
Geez, what's with that all of a sudden? You're making me blush.
His name is Richard Sullivan. He was a former colleague from Bright Path Ventures. About 6 years ago, I happened to run into Richard at a work party. After that, we worked together just once, but that was the last time we saw each other. But I could never get him out of my mind. So, for the first time in my life, I sent him an email asking, would you like to have dinner? Looking back, I've always been passive when it came to relationships. I always dated people who liked someone like me or needed me. And every time a relationship ended, it felt like they were telling me, you're not needed anymore, and that made me sad. But Richard was different. My feelings for him weren't passive or dependent. Instead, it was respect, admiration, and a sense of comfort from sharing similar values. With him, I didn't have to pretend to be someone I wasn't. I could just be myself, and I've decided to walk this journey with him as a family once again. My family was thrilled with my decision. Amanda was especially excited, giving us a pair of wine glasses as a gift, saying, to celebrate your new beginning together. When I saw those wine glasses, I finally felt like I had lifted a burden off her shoulders. Why has Amanda always taken care of me so much? To be honest, I never really knew the reason. But once, after I moved abroad, she said something.
If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be who I am today. You've always been a light in my life. This is my way of repaying you.
She said it like a joke at the end, but I could feel that I had always been special to her, and that made me so happy. We still keep in touch regularly, but I don't think she'll ask me, has anything changed anymore? Because now I'm living a life of my own choosing, standing next to the person I've chosen for myself. And no one told me to do this. This is the life I chose for myself. I want to live with him in this country, I thought as I gently held Richard's hand. And in response, he gently squeezed my hand back. Breaking free from an oppressive and closed-off environment is hard. But it's important to have the courage to say, help me, and take action. This whole experience has shown me that clearly. With Amanda's words, the power to decide your life belongs to you. Close to my heart, I'm determined to keep moving forward.